Yo, yo, yo! It's your girl Rose Gold, and you are tuned in for another episode of Heartbreak Hill Podcast. Thank you for tuning in today. I'm gonna go ahead and hop right on into it. Now, if you looked at the title of this message, you'll know that today we're gonna be talking about truth and logic not being the same thing. I've been getting a lot of email and Facebook messages over the last month or so of people asking me, how do you know when you're being manipulated? Or what are some signs that somebody may not be being 100 with you? And I'm going to be straight up and honest with you. I really don't know. Flat out, I really don't know how to hold somebody up to the light and see if they being real or not, like how you do a dollar bill or a $20 bill. You feel me? I don't have no foolproof strategy on how you can determine whether or not a person is being manipulative or lying to you. Usually, time will expose those things. You know, I don't know about time always being a healer if you don't do the work, but I do know for a fact that time will always reveal whether or not somebody is being who they say they are. Now that I got that disclaimer out the way about admitting to y'all that I really don't know the foolproof answer to that, I do know that truth and logic are not always the same thing. And anytime I've been manipulated in my life, the person who was manipulating me, they were always very logical. What I mean by that is that the things that they were saying made perfect sense. You know what I'm saying? But it wasn't truthful. And it wasn't until I turned maybe 24, 23 or 24 that I started to really notice the difference. Like, man, truth is a completely separate thing than logic. And I wanted to make this video to hopefully try to address some of those concerns and some of those questions about knowing kind of the difference between, when somebody is being real, when they're not using truth and logic to do so. All right. So we got truth. Right now, if you're a believer in Christian faith, you will know that what's true is written in the words of the Bible. You know what I mean? And if you're not a person of Christian faith, you more than likely have your own set of boundaries, morality, and values that are true to you. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of times, truth is subjective to that person and their belief system, right? However, truth will always be without any confusion or without any further questioning. You know what I'm saying? So when somebody is telling you the 100% truth about something, right? There is no room for you to guess or to fill in blanks about what that person is saying. You also don't need to be confused. The minute that somebody is talking to you and you are being confused, it's time to start asking questions. Now, that don't always mean that the person is lying. I speak to people all the time. I'm actually a people person. I love talking to people, and sometimes they are telling the truth, but they may not be making sense. So I'll ask them, some clarifying questions to maybe help me better understand what they're saying. At the end of me asking them clarifying questions, though, it makes complete and total sense that they are telling me the truth because I'm not confused by what they're saying. I don't have any further questions to ask them. And I'm not also having to fill in the blanks. I have 100% clarity. I have 100% peace about what they're saying. I think for me that has been a number one way to, for me at least, to recognize truth. You know what I'm saying? And when it's being said. Now, like I kind of hinted toward earlier, there's another kind of, I don't know if you want to call it the cousin of truth. We'll call it the cousin of truth, and that's logic. Now, logic is anything that's being said to you that makes sense. There's no criteria or there's no requirement or qualification for logic to be true. And a lot of times, a lot of times, when somebody is running game on me, or even when I was running game on somebody, truth would be absent, but sense would be present. So I could tell somebody, yeah, woo woo woo, this is what happened, this is how it's gonna go, and this is what you're gonna get in return if I get this. Now, what I'm saying, I could be using facts, I could be using statistical data. I could be, really coming with information that makes this make sense. But I'm not telling 100% truth. This person may still be confused by what I'm saying. But just by how I'm saying it, they're not really paying attention to the confusion. You see what I'm saying? Or maybe this person is using facts about me and they're telling me these things, and while it makes perfect sense, it's still not true. And I think that you as a person, it's kind of sometimes hard for human beings to decipher between truth and logic, because like I was saying earlier, truth is sometimes subjective to that person. So I will always encourage you, if you are in a situation, or maybe you find yourself getting ready to enter a situation and you're not 100% sure if truth is being presented to you, or logic is being used to manipulate you, I would strongly advise you to pray for discernment. And for y'all that don't know what discernment is, it's just basically a sense that you can only get from above that is helping you to determine whether or not what's happening in front of you is real or fake. That's basically what discernment is. Because I think that in this life, truth and logic are sometimes so intertwined with each other that when there's one without the other, you can't really see it. You can't really make sense of it. Like, there's plenty of times where, the truth is being said, but it sometimes don't always make sense, and you can mistake that for a lie and make the wrong choice. There's a lot of time where there's only logic being used. This person is making intellectual sense. Like, what they're saying makes sense. You can write it on paper and it breathes well, but there's no truth at all in what they're saying. You know what I'm saying? And I feel that it's a lot of pressure when you try to determine that by yourself. Now, I gave you a few tips as far as truth and logic, and one way you'll know truth, but you still will never really know unless you ask for help to see it. You know what I'm saying? And this world that we live in, I think it can be so easy to be fooled by what we see, and to think that what we see is what's real, when in reality it's not. Some of the realest things you can't see, like trust. You can't really see trust. You see what I'm saying? That's an action that's performed over time as you're watching somebody. You know what I mean? There's just certain things in this life that are so real that you can't see, and so because we can't see them, it can be hard to determine what category they belong in. So you need prayer to determine whether truth is being used or logic is being used. Um, I wanted to make this episode for anybody who feels like they may be a victim of being manipulated, or they may feel like they are a manipulator and they want to stop. You know what I mean? Truth is going to be universal. That means that whatever is being said or done, even on Mars, that truth is going to be true. You know, one solid truth, kind of to give you guys an example of this, a man hitting a woman is wrong. Now, there are circumstances where a male may have to defend himself, but just ride along with me for the course of an example that I'm using. We know that morally, a man beating a woman is wrong. That is a universal truth. So whether you go to Mars, whether you go to Antarctica, whether you go to Germany, whether you go to Los Angeles, California, beating a woman is wrong. That's a universal truth, and that will always be true, right? So then here comes logic. Logic will tell you, okay, I did beat her, but I beat her because she called me out of my name. And she said some disrespectful things about my mama. Some people will take that and say, okay, well, that makes sense. I see why he turned up on her then. I see why he hit her then. And I think that you could easily be manipulated into thinking that something is right, even though it's wrong, because logic is being used. And I'm just here to tell you, man, don't be no fool in this world. Truth and logic are not the same thing. And the minute that you start getting confused by what somebody's saying, you need to stop and you need to ask questions. I wasted a lot of my time by not doing that. You know, Don't ever want an outcome so bad that you are afraid of the truth. Because a lot of times the truth is accessible to us, but we don't want to see it. Or a lot of times we know what's being said to us don't make sense, but for the sake of peace, we don't ask those questions. And I'm a strong advocate for peace. I do think that there is a time and a place to ask these questions to get to truth and things of that nature, but I don't think that truth should be sacrificed in order to keep peace. And here's why: truth always wins. Listen to what I'm telling you. The truth always wins. No matter how good a person may be at using logic to twist or turn your mind or to manipulate you, truth always wins. And so sometimes it can be scary to ask questions or to get to the bottom of what the truth really is, because the outcome, may be what we don't want it to be. But I want to let you know that avoiding truth don't make it less true. Avoiding finding out exactly what is being said or done to you don't stop it from being real. And so if you can just get this point of what I'm saying, maybe go back and listen to this tape again, maybe listen to it a little bit slowly, email me if you having any questions about it, but just really know and understand that truth and logic are not the same thing. And as you even get older, I thought that being younger this was really an issue, but as I get older, I really start to see how there's such a thin line in our society between the two, and people's lives are being destroyed. I know people that literally their whole lives are based on logic and what makes sense. No sort of truth is intertwined into their lives. And it's not because these are bad people, it's just that sometimes truth can be too painful to face. So they spend their time living in logical. I know that this person is bad for me, but we have a family. So logically, it makes sense for us to stay together and trying to work it out. When the truth is, no matter how long you stay with somebody, if they don't want to do right, they don't want to learn how to treat you right, they're not going to do it. Logic would say, I do need to be at this job to pay my bills. It makes sense because I have bills to pay. I have children to feed. Logically, I need to be at this job. When the truth is that if this job is compromising your morality, if this job is compromising your values, it's only a matter of time before you're not working there anyway. So truth is inevitable. It's a lot of times subjective to that person based on their values, thoughts, and belief process, like I said before. But truth always wins. And logic is only going to be temporary. It'll only make sense until it don't make sense. And usually, when truth show up, it's either going to support the logic or it's going to deny the logic. But truth is going to show up. And that was kind of how I wanted to end with just, because like I told y'all before, manipulation was really the subject of the emails and the content that I was receiving. So I wanted to kind of cater an episode to where I can address that. And I just want you to know, if you feel like you're being manipulated or if you're in a situation like that, once again, truth and logic are not the same thing. If you're unsure about if game is being ran on you or if logic is being used to manipulate you, I strongly encourage you to pray. It don't got to be something big and drastic. It can be literally just a conversation that you have with God through Christ about what you're going through and what you're facing. And when you invite that kind of insight into your life, things become more clear. I cannot stress that enough. There was many times I was getting ready to enter deals, getting ready to enter relationships, getting ready to enter friendships, and logic was being used to manipulate me. And that prayer of clarity saved me. I began to ask questions that I know I ain't think about on my own. You feel what I'm saying? I began to investigate things that I know I would have never investigated had I not been given that sort of insight based on the prayer that I asked for. You see what I'm saying? Nobody is going to manipulate you if you don't want them to. You ain't no victim, you a victor. And don't let nobody treat you in such a manner. Truth and logic are not the same thing, man. And anybody that's using logic to get over on you, when the truth is exposed, have a support system enough to give you strength to get up out of there, because we only get one life. And you can either spend it doing it what God wants you to do with it, or you can spend it how you want to spend it, playing catch up. Either way, Truth is gonna win. All right. Look, man, I'm running out of time right now, and I don't really want to talk y'all heads off, but I got about 11 or so emails about manipulation, and so I wanted to create something once again. If you want to be on the show, if you have content questions, hit us up, man. HeartbreakHillPodcast@gmail.com. While you at it, don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Heartbreak Hill Podcast is our tag name for all of those things. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you decided to be here with me. I thank you and I love y'all, Heartbreakers. Thank you for coming in today. Y'all have a blessed day. Love.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Heartbreak Hill Podcast. Our mission here is to use multimedia channels to break generational curses in our thought process. Our motto here is breaking hearts, blowing minds, one conversation at a time. Please note that our entire production is brought forth by listeners and viewers just like you. Thank you. If you'd like to support the show, please visit our website at heartbreakhillpodcast.com.